Sabbath to everyone. I would like to bring you greetings from my country, from Poland, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you. I have to also apologize for my English. It's not my best skills to speak English, but I've never had English in school, actually. It was just that I learned it by being in the US, but the process of learning was quite difficult. And I can tell you one story. When I just came to the US for the first time, and I was working with a Canadian man doing construction, I only knew a few words. And I was trying to figure out how to ask him to borrow me a knife to cut the sheetrock. And I was putting the words together in my mind, and I finally asked, well, then can I borrow your wife? And he looked at me, with a little bit surprising look, and he said, he didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and I said, well, what's the matter? Just 5 minutes. And of course, that put me in trouble. But later on, he figured out that maybe I wanted to say something different. So if I do say something strange, just forgive me. I want to share with you my story, the story of Springs of Life Ministry. It all started in the last century, last millennium actually, in 1974. This young man made a decision to spend a vacation where I live. And we grew as a Catholic family with no Adventist presence in our city of 50,000 people. He decided to come there, and he visited some people, knocking from door to door, selling some literature. And as a result of this, some of my friends were saying that a guy from the dentist church visited us, and he was selling some literature, because they didn't remember the name Adventist. Anyhow, my father became Adventist as first in the family, then my mother, and finally I was baptized also at the age of 14. And since that was the age where I graduated my primary school, and I just decided to go to a secondary school, the school was located about 20 miles away, so I was taking train every day. And it was during the time when God really spoke to me that I should be doing something for Him. 5 years later, with a group of my friends, we organized the first so-called a mission camp, where we came from all over different directions from Poland, rented a little space to stay, and rented also facility from, that was still under communism, you have to remember. So it was not very easy to do it, but we rented this facility, one hall in this building, and then we put some posters on the street. We were having books, and we organized meetings. We had about 80 people coming to the meetings, and our average age in the group of the young people was maybe 22 or 23. So it was all organized by just us. This is another picture of the group that attended the meetings. But the problem with this was it could happen only during one time during vacation. Then after that, we had to go home. And I was praying, is there any way we could work like this all year round? We need to support ourselves somehow. So that was the most challenging part. And just about that time, I had a brother. We joined the idea together, and we decided that we will start a ministry, not having anything actually. And you have to keep in mind that in the communist Poland, the salary of average worker, like my father was an engineer in the truck factory, he was making about $17 per month. $17 per month, not per hour, per month. And so it was very challenging for us. But since we owned this car, my parents, this big car, My brother decided to go to Norway to make some extra money on laying paving stones. And he was doing this, and while in Norway, he met a friend who was operating a printing press, and he spent some time with him, and a friend of his asked him, well, do you like the printing? And my brother said, yes. Would you like to do something like this in Poland? And he said, yes, there is a big need, of course, but, how to do it? This Norwegian guy told him, well, I know somebody who has this kind of equipment for sale. So they immediately contacted the guy and asked him, well, is this true? He said, yes, I have this machine. I can sell it to you for $10,000. My brother said, well, I don't have $10,000, but I can give you all I have. Actually, at this moment, I don't have anything yet because I just started. But at the end of my stay, like after 2 months, I can give you everything I will have. And the guy asked, well, so how much it will be? Well, I'm anticipating to make about $800 during this time. So the guy was thinking for a moment, and then finally he said, okay, let's do it. So he sold the press that was worth about $10,000 for $800 with the terms that he will get the money after 2 months. And of course, my brother had another problem, how to take this press to Poland, which was 1,000 miles away, and also how to get money to pay the duty on the border, which was 40% of the price based on the market price, which is $10,000. So it's $4,000 that he had to pay. But God made a miracle, and I don't have the time to go into details. He brought the press without paying any duty. So he started the printing operation in 1991. That was our first press. And just about that time, somebody invited me to come for a 1-year training to Living Springs, New York. That was just about the same time. So I went there, and I've noted there is a big Polish community that and there is nobody there who would reach them. So I took some books and I was trying to sell it to those people. And at the end of my stay, when my brother already learned how to print, because in the beginning he didn't have an idea about printing, so he wasted lots of paper in the process. But at the end of that year, he already knew how to do certain things. And he said, well, if you are in the States, maybe there is somebody who could help us to get a little bit larger press. And I asked him, well, how much it would be. And he said, well, we can buy used presses for about 60,000 US. So somebody also recommended that I will go to see certain men in Canada, but because I didn't have money, so I took a bus from New York to Canada. That was the cheapest way. It was just $70. Of course, 4 days. And all the way I was eating just bread and peanut butter. And when I got to the border with Canada, something unusual happened. And I didn't know why, but because the bus was delayed in the way, there's many connections that had to be made on the way. So I got to the border quite late, about 12 hours after the scheduled time. And I had a visa that was until the 15th of October, 1990. When I got there, it was like after midnight, maybe 20 minutes. And the Canadian officer looked at my passport and he said, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Kuczek, I cannot let you go into Canada because your visa has expired just 20 minutes ago. And so I asked him, well, what should I do in this situation? Well, you have to get a new visa. So the closest Canadian embassy was in Seattle. That is the first time I actually have been in Seattle. That was like more than 30 years ago. Okay, I had enough money to buy the ticket to Seattle. When I got there, they asked me to pay $80 for a new visa. I didn't have the money, but Some other friend contacted somebody in Seattle who paid for this new visa and got me a new ticket as well to Canada. So I continue my journey to Kitwanga, Canada, to meet this man. And I was thinking on my way, now I don't have anything. He told me to call him when I get to Kitwanga so he can pick me up. But I don't have even money to call him. So as I was sitting, and after, that many days in the bus, you are tired. As we were approaching Kitwanga, I went to the driver and asked him, well, could you let me know when the station is so I will not miss it? And he said, yes, sure. And so I told him this, the bus was still in motion, and I turned back and was going back to my seat. And in the middle, there was a lady sitting there, and she stopped me and she said, well, excuse me, can you sit with me for a moment? I have a question to ask you. And I said, sure, I can sit. Could you tell me, who are you? And I said, well, I'm going to see this and this. I'm also going to a school to learn some trade there for a few months. Well, sorry that I'm asking, but I have these feelings and those thoughts that I should give you $50, and I don't know why. And so that's how this problem was solved. And then I met Mr. Jacobson. He was quite wealthy man, and he talked with me about the needs in Poland. I shared with him all my dreams, everything that we would like to do. And after a few months of my training there at the school, he said, well, so what do you need? And I said, well, we would like to have this press, and we have these plans to do this and this and this. And he said, well, okay, great plans, but maybe you should just go back to Poland and start doing this. And I didn't quite like the idea. I thought that maybe he would help us to get this burger press, but he only gave me $1,000 to buy a ticket. He called somebody, travel agent, and asked, well, how much the ticket to Poland is, and they told him $960, so he gave me $1,000. But of course, I found a ticket for $480, going through Germany, taking a train from Germany. So I asked him, well, can I keep the rest? And he said, yeah, sure. He was a little bit surprised, but yeah, of course, use it. So this all took place during the famous time when the Berlin Wall was destroyed and when it was the end of communism. And by this time, my brother was already doing the printing job. When I came back to Poland, I joined him. We had an office that was actually in our place where we lived. Very small area, about 160 square feet. And there was about 6 people working there on computers, designing everything. So you see, we could also have a washing machine and a refrigerator and a bicycle hanging there. This is where we lived, and this is where our office was. We published our first book on with some recipes, vegetarian recipes, and we tried to sell this book, and it was going like crazy. The first 5,000 copies we sold in 2 weeks. And then we printed another 10,000 copies, and we sold it in 2 months. And it was going on, and we finally sold close to 200,000 copies of these books. But we still had this one car for taking care of all the paper, all the supplies to everywhere, and that was our team. Besides of printing, we also were doing health lectures everywhere in Poland. It came to the point where actually, I don't know how it happened, but the Los Angeles Times published an article on the first page about our work in Poland. That was in December 1995. Then we found a chicken coop, and we thought, since the first room where we started the printing operation is too small, we are going to fix the chicken coop and move our printing there. So we did this. We invited the General Conference president for opening. We were very proud of this huge place. He came, he kind of looked around, oh, okay. But we were very happy. You know, we could have a bigger place. And after that, somebody donated the second press to us. And we already could see the results of our work as people were being baptized. But because we were tired of the second location was already too small after a while, we were trying to find our own place. So we thought, let's maybe raise some funds and get a property so it will be ours. We could get maybe like 5 acres of land because we were also thinking about lifestyle center in the future. So I started to look for properties. I spent in this car, I don't know how many weeks driving around. There was no internet, so you had to actually go and ask people if you know anybody who would sell anything. And I slept in this car, and this was my house on the wheels. And finally, somebody suggested to me, well, you know, if you are thinking about the land, maybe you should go to US again, to ASI. There are some business people who might be willing to help you. So again, I flew to New York, took a bus from New York to California. That's what I knew how to do. And I arrived in Palm Springs the day before ASI started. And since I had this extra time, I went to the swimming pool. And as I was swimming on my back, I hit a man with my head. So I stood in the water, he stood in the water, and I said, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And he said, well, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Poland. Oh, I'm from Poland too, but I live here. I came from Poland many years ago. And that happened to be Jan Kuzma. I don't know if maybe somebody of you know him. He was doing a study on health from Loma Linda. Anyhow, he, after spending a few hours with me, learning about my plans, he said, I'm willing to give you $7,000 right now towards your future property. Whatever you find it, use it for this purpose. And it was a big blessing. So after I came back home, we decided to put an advertisement in the newspaper that we are looking for a property around Warsaw, the capital. And as a result, we got 17 offers, and people were writing letters to us. So we opened the letters, we read this. We visited 16 of them. We decided not to visit the last one because it was too big. It was like 70 acres. So we thought this will cost $250,000. No, we are not going to see this. But the first 13 actually didn't pass our criteria. They were too expensive or the location was bad. There were 3 ones that were good, but quite expensive, above $100,000, and we only had 7. So I was doing this with my friend from Living Springs, Bill Dahl, and he was in Poland during that time, and he was going to go back to the US the next day, but when he looked at his tickets, he noticed that, okay, there was a mistake. I'm not supposed to fly tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow. And tomorrow is the Thanksgiving day. I wanted to be with my family, but now I cannot do it. So since we had this extra time, we said, well, let's go to see the last place. Then at least we will feel like we did what we're supposed to do. And when we came to this place, we couldn't find it for a long time. But when we finally came there, we saw a beautiful property, 72 acres of land, with orchard, buildings already erected, big fields. And so when we looked at it, we talked with the owner. I was translating everything in English to my friend. And at the end, we said, well, just thank you for showing us around. He took us by his car. And we were sitting in the car. He was in front, and I was beside him. My friend was on the back. And he said, well, don't you want to ask for the price? And we were not really interested in the price because we thought, we're not going to spend $200,000 on this property. And I said, well, yeah, so how much is it? How much? And he said, well, I'm willing to sell this property for $100,000. And so I translated this to my friend. And his reaction was, he opened his eyes like he would see a monster, And this guy, the owner sitting in the front seat, he saw his expression in the mirror. And he said, well, but, if you are seriously about buying this, I'm willing to lower the price if you think it's too much. So I said, it's a little bit too much. Yeah, so how much can you sell it to? So his first offer was $100,000, but then after we talked with him a little bit, he said, okay, I can do $90,000. So my friend went home, and I stayed there. I took some other friends. We wanted to invite as many people as possible to see the property. So we were coming there, and the price was going down too. So as we talked with him, he said, well, okay, I can do it for $85,000. He gave us a box of apples. Then we visited him again. He said, well, okay, $80,000. So we brought some other people, $75,000. Then we visited him again, $70,000. We were checking everything, even the electric poles, if they're okay. And finally he said, well, you are probably just playing with me because we are just a bunch of kids. You don't have money, right? But you have those big plans, but you have no money. And we said to him, well, no, I think, we do. We want to buy it. So he said, well, so I want you to prove it to me. Let's make a contract, and you give me the 10% down payment as a proof. Okay. We were praying about this, how to do it, and finally we make the decision. So we had $7,000. We signed the contract to pay $70,000 with the terms that we will pay to the end of the year. He agreed to that. But after signing this contract, I had another thought, and I came to him again and said, would you be willing to lower the price if we come with the money earlier? And he said, not even actually believing that it's going to happen, he said, okay, let's do it 65 if you pay me to the end of April. And that was already March, the beginning of March. So again, I had to fly to the US. Somebody told me who to go to. I went to California to Pacific Health Education Center. Then there were some people interested. They've heard about what we are doing. And they offered us another 8% towards the property. But time was going by, and we didn't have the rest. It was like almost the first week of April, and we were praying all the time. And then finally, maybe around like the 15th of April, my friend from Canada, Mr. Jacobson, calls me. And he said, is this true that you found the property? And I said, yeah. How do you know? Well, I was watching you. I wanted to see if you are serious about your plans. And I said, yeah, we found the property. We are doing the printing with it, yeah. Okay, so I'm willing to pay the rest, whatever you need. And so finally, he promised us the money, but at the time, it was not like today where you could just send money to Poland you had to bring it in cash. So we had short time, and I asked my friend, would you be willing to bring $60,000 in cash? And he said, well, it's a little bit risky, but I will try. So he brought it in a piles, with a rubber band everywhere, in his pants, in socks. And he came to the border, to the customs, and then a guy approached him and he said, well, are you bringing any cash? And he didn't want to lie, so he said, yeah, I'm bringing a little bit cash. Well, how much? He kind of hesitated a little bit, and he said, well, 60,000. The people asked him to show it to them, so he started to removing them from everywhere, and he laid them on the table. So they made some kind of a paper, and they asked him, what is this for, And he said that, well, I'm working with a non-profit organization here in Poland, and we are using this money to buy a property. So they want, he gave them my phone number. They called me, and I said, yes, this is all true. So everything was okay. They released him with the money. But then when I picked him up at the airport, he said, is it safe actually here? I mean, the people at the board, they know I'm carrying all this cash. What would happen if somebody stopped us on the way? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, we just have to see. So we start driving from the airport, and maybe after like 2 miles, a police car stops us. And we see, wow, this is going to be interesting. So they come, they ask for the documents, they ask about his documents, they look around the car, and finally, after a few minutes of discussion, they say, okay, this is just routine control, have a nice day. They gave us the papers. But as we are driving, we see a red car following us. And I see to my friend, well, this car is already has turned like 3 times the same direction where we did. So I don't know who those people are, but they're following us. So he said, well, why don't you just take the right turn now? It's a smaller road, so we'll see if they really follow us, or maybe it's just coincidence. So I did turn right, and the red car just turned right after us. And so now we are driving on a smaller road, and we are thinking what to do. What if they have guns? What will we do? So we pray. And finally, he said, well, let's turn left. This is really small, like almost like a driveway. So we turn left, and the red car just turned left as well. And then we see signs, everywhere. And we said, we are coming with some kind of plans. And he said, well, you see, there is a tire center. Let's go there, and we'll just jump out of the car and run to those people and ask them to call the police or whatever. So we turned to this place where they fixed tires, and we stopped. We didn't jump out of the car. The red car turned exactly to the same place, stopped beside us. And the guy gets out of the car. He gets behind the car to the trunk. He opens the trunks and takes a tire to the tire place. And we think, wow, how is it possible that this could actually happen by coincidence? And all those fears we had in our head. And I often use this illustration because when God is asking us for something, we have all kinds of fears. Sometimes, just it's our imagination. Anyhow, it came to the point where on the April 21st, 1993, we actually signed the contract with paying in cash. So this is the real picture from the time as the owners were counting the money. And that was at the Notary Public. We signed the contract, They took all the cash and went home. And I discovered a very amazing promise, of which I didn't know before. I would like to read it to you. The Lord will work upon human minds in unexpected quarters. Some who are apparently the enemies of the truth will in God's providence invest their means to develop properties and erect buildings. In time, those properties will be offered for sale at a price far below their costs. Our people will recognize the hand of providence in those offers and will secure valuable property for use in educational work. And notice this other sentence. Our people should be looking for opportunities to purchase properties away from the cities on which are buildings already erected and orchards already in bearing. That was like a perfect description of our property. It was 30 miles from Warsaw, in the country, with buildings and with orchards. And we were so happy because of this. So our team grew up. At this time, we had more people. Of course, there were problems on the properties too. Like, there were some chicken coops we had to fix, but we already had experience with fixing chicken coops. So it was not very difficult. We turned this chicken coop into a house, so we could live there. And then we turned another chicken coop to a printing place. And at this time, well, two years later, we got our third printing press. Then, to speed up the story a little bit, we grew up to the point where it was too crowded. We had to build a new building on our property. And now I want to tell you a little story, because it's quite interesting. This is a story that is related with our ministry, but it started many years ago in 1978. And there was a bus driver who received a copy of the Great Controversy as a payment for a trip from a hitchhiker. He took this book, did not read it. He just brought it and put it on the shelf in his house. And for 15 years, nothing happened. When this took place, his son was 5 years old. But 15 years later, when he was 20, he discovered the book in his father's library. He started reading it, and he became Adventist. Well, not only that, he was working in the printing shop. When he became Adventist, he lost his job because the owner of the printing shop was printing some false documents for stolen cars, which he didn't want to print. So he lost his job. So he was looking for a new place to work, and he didn't know where to find it. So he found somebody on the street selling books, and white books. And he shared this story with that guy, and he said, well, those people who print those books, they might need a printer. So that's how he contacted us. And he got a job. Well, there's another quote. It is true that some who buy the books will lay them on the shelf and place them on the parlor table and seldom look at them. Still, God has care for His truth, and the time will come when those books will be sought for and read. Do we still believe this? So this was exactly the fulfillment of this promise. Wojtek started to pray for two things. First, that his family will be baptized, but also that he himself could print Great Controversy. So his mother was baptized, and his sister. Then we also started a Great Controversy project. We created a new model of marketing the books with a little piece of paper, and we were giving this away everywhere in the street, just a piece of paper with some advertisement, some questions. And after the people received the paper, there was another group coming with the books. The books were not given away. We could not afford this, so we were selling it. And we could see people everywhere reading this, and just after that, our friends came to those people and offered the book for sale for a good price. And Wojtek himself was the one who was printing the books. We were printing them in such a way that almost 10,000 copies every second month during the years from 1998 to 2000. And the results of this was that the total number of the great controversies sold in Poland was above 190,000 copies, and the book became the fourth best-selling book in the country, including all commercially published books. We know also that the book ended up in the President of Poland's house. How we know this? Because there was an article in the newspaper showing his wife sitting on a new house, holding some books, and among those, she was actually holding a copy of Great Controversy. Yeah. Well, a few years later, we got our fourth printing press, and then the fifth printing press, a little bit bigger, and then the sixth printing press. And we actually, our location that we built many years ago was already too small, so we decided to build a larger one, and God also provided help with this. We were printing Great Controversy like crazy, and a few years ago, Pastor Ted Wilson visited us at our place, and just 9 years ago, in 2016, somebody donated our seventh press, which we have right now. And this is amazing, fast printing press. And this is our team right now. Well, there's another short story. I know the time is running, but there's another short story I want to share with you. It's a story of my math teacher. When I became Adventist, just after I was baptized, I was graduating from my primary school. And at the end of the school, I gave my math teacher a copy of Desire of Ages. I was giving this to many teachers. And for 30 years, nothing happened. Nothing. And then one day, when I was visiting my parents' house, that's the place where the school was too, for most of the times the flat was empty because my parents were already living with us, so nobody lived there. We came there just like for 4 days, and during that time the phone rang, the regular phone, not the cell phone. So what a coincidence. I mean, there was nobody in the flat for so many months, but just during that time a phone is ringing. And my wife picked up the phone, and there is a voice on the other side says, well, can I talk with Robert? And she said, well, Robert is not here, but I can ask him to call you back, so what is your number? And so when I came home, I called her, and I discovered this is my math teacher. And so she said, well, would you be willing to visit me? And I said, yes, okay, I will come. I went to her house, and she told me the story that, recently she discovered the book that was given to her many years ago. She started reading the book, and she was wondering how can she find somebody who would study the Bible with her. So I put her with contact with my friends from this town, and few weeks later, she was baptized. Okay, so what are we doing now after 33 years of the startup? Well, we are still organizing New Start programs. We are doing health lectures. We are doing health expo programs, health clubs, which is the idea where we invite people regularly for certain meetings on health. My brother's wife is a medical doctor. She works with us. She's the one who runs the New Start programs and doing lectures. But most of all, we are printing books now, not only for Poland, but for all Europe and Africa. If you know a ministry that is called Lightbearers, and you know what they are doing, we are doing something similar, but with books. They are doing the leaflets and pamphlets, we are doing books. And we send them whenever is needed. You can see the map here with the green and dark colors. The dark colors are the countries we have not reached yet. But the green ones, well, US is an exception. We don't send books too often to US, but we do it regularly in Europe and Australia and few African countries. Like in 2023, the main countries that receive our books were Tanzania and Ukraine. And you can imagine why Ukraine. For the first time in my life, I've actually seen that God created us for such a time as this, because when the war started, there was nobody who could be able to print books right away. There was shortage of paper in the world, well, because of COVID actually mostly. The prices went up for paper for a short time. There was also shortage. So because we had stored some supplies of paper, we were able to respond immediately. And since that time, we printed, I think, about 32 million pages for Ukraine. And those are actually pictures of books in Swahili, another Swahili books. We pack them into containers and we send a container load of books to Tanzania, and this is the place that receives them. It's another ministry in Tanzania. We send also a container of books to Ukraine. And you can see a little bit of how the volume of books increased since we got the bigger press. And we are very thankful for the year 2023, in which we printed 78 million pages of mission books and mission materials. So the average, like if you want to see it per day, how many books we printed per day, it is 2,250. But books, you know, this number doesn't really show because one book could be this big and another could be this big. So I go by pages. That's 312,000 pages. But most of all, our goal is to help the church to grow. I'm coming to an end, but I would like to ask you two questions. Well, one question, basically. If you think about our story, and I hope you enjoyed it, if you think about it, what would happen if this guy would not come to my place in 1974? He did because he made a decision. What happened if I would not meet Jane Kuzma in the swimming pool? Or what would happen if Mr. Jacobson would not respond on time? Or if the driver would not receive a copy of Great Controversy? Or if we didn't get what we have now? So, my question that I want to leave you with, it's what is our part now? What is God calling us to do now? And I also would like to invite you to also participate in our story. We are trying now to raise $60,000 to print Great Controversy in Ukraine. We designed a new version that is very nice. It's full color. If you want to see it, you can see it later on. And we are just translating all the additional materials in this book into Ukrainian. It's already also published in French. We sent 60,000 books to France for the Olympics, and they were distributed by volunteers. And as we are trying to raise it, these funds, I want to leave with you a gift. It's a stone. There's nothing unusual about it. It's a common stone taken from the river where I was baptized. And it's painted by our children from our church. When they've heard that I'm coming here and we are trying to raise these funds, they said, well, Uncle, we created 30 stones for you. You can sell them. And of course, I'm limited with luggage, so I could only take one. But I said, okay, I will take this stone. The way how the children are using this stone is they painted it nice, and then they put some Bible verse and a Facebook page, and they put those stones in different locations in the city. And people find them, and it says, if you found the stone, please take a picture of the stone, place it on Facebook, and you will receive a gift. And the gift is a book, of course. And we got, recently we got 3 teenage people that came to our church as a result of this. So I want to leave it with you as a gift. If you, this will remind you my story, and thank you so much for, if you are interested in supporting us, please talk with me afterwards. Thank you very much.